call us, you know, dividing ourselves into groups that have no significance whatsoever in, you know, in a spiritual reality. So maybe the question would be, what does it mean to engage with society from a spiritual perspective? You know, here we are, we're at a particular crossroads in the history of the United States. How can we, as individuals and communities, elevate the conversation? How can we focus the conversation on something that is going to move us towards unity, and to, rather than something that, you know, it's like, I disagree with this executive order, I like what Trump tweeted today, I don't like what he tweeted today, I don't support this, I don't support that. Like, how can we move beyond the materialistic conversation without ignoring what's happening, right? Because we don't want to just kind of stick our heads in the sand and say, well, you know, wake me up when it's the most great peace.
Right.
You know, I mean, we have to engage. We have to engage, right? So how can we engage in a way that's actually going to help move things forward? And what maybe I want to also open it up for people to share struggles that they're having with that, not just ideas, but, you know, like, gosh, you know, I was in this situation and I didn't know what to do. Or I think about being in this situation and I don't know how I would move the conversation. In Washington, D.C., it's very difficult to not talk about politics. Or to talk about politics without talking about partisan politics. Because you are forced to take a side. And if you don't take a side, you're assumed to be on the wrong side. So, like, I don't know what it's like here. What are people struggling with in terms of elevating the conversation?
I've had a lot of conversations that typically start out with political knowledge. We usually just ask people, how are you feeling?
Right.
What's going on with your family?
Yeah.
You know, make a connection to their personal life. And people will start realizing that, wow, there's someone here that actually cares. And they realize that no longer the conversation doesn't need to be superficial. That's happened quite often, and it's very receptive at the present moment, because all people want is just to be validated in their feelings. And most people think the validation needs to come on a superficial level, because that's all the conversations that are happening. They don't understand that there are people out there having deep conversations and are worried about their spiritual well-being. For example, like, we're tabling on UWT right now, and it's been a real gift because it's been me and my mom, and I've actually never had a teaching experience with my mom before, so it's been really pretty cool. But this gentleman came up, he's Sikh, and one of the gals that was at the table, she's a Baha'i as well, and they're in the same class, and he just lit up at the fact that there's something out there that agrees and is in line with him spiritually. And even though he's Sikh, you know, probably not going to become a Baha'i, that he could have a conversation with someone that really meant something to him. And that goes beyond just a religious conversation. People just want to be understood and accepted.
That's such a nice example, because I feel like, you know, Sikhs often feel like they're misunderstood. They're often in this country assumed to be Muslim. They're attacked for that. They're not, you know, they're othered because they might be wearing clothing that is associated with their faith. And so, you know, looking for those commonalities and even just enabling somebody to interact as a human being without othering them and categorizing them is such a gift.
And it's not our gift. It's been given to us. It's a bounty to share that.
Yeah.
That's the real gift. Right? Even being in a position to know that we've gotten something to share with others.
Well, the blessings always come first. But I was going to segue from all the gal for that.
She followed the baby.
A learning experience.
She's a mother.
No, what she just said, see, it's the legacy. What is our legacy? And I look at the young people. Our legacy is there. She's already starting to, that generation is already starting to see the real thing, you know, and what it's all
And
about.
quickly.
Yeah.
Things are changing so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And in Tisha's life, you know, she stepped out of the room, or she's right there, but
doing something on an individual level and seeing that be a difference on the grander scheme. So a lot of the people that I work with are adamantly engaged with activism, I guess you could say, in one respect or another. But getting them to see or look at an activism in another avenue by engaging in like coming to a meeting like this, or looking at what can be done, you know, at the local level, you know, in our community, it's really hard to bring them back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a challenge. Because I think our community as a whole they're reactionary. Everybody's reactionary,
especially the children's classes and the junior youth groups, to activism as, you know, it currently exists in American society, because, you know, activism is, as it exists right now, is based on conflict.
right?
It's based on opposing something, and it may be that we very much need to oppose those things. So I'm not saying, you know, that those, whatever is being opposed shouldn't be opposed, but it's just that, like, the fundamental presumption is that the way that you get anything done is to fight. And that, we might want to just put the question out there, is that the only way to get anything done in society? Because if you look at the children's classes, which is the fundamental purpose of the children's class is to instill in a young human being the consciousness of themselves as a spiritual being who is beautiful, who was born noble, right? And if everyone grows up with that understanding of themselves as a human being, that puts them in a completely different context. I was not raised like that. I wasn't raised with that conception of myself. And, you know, what would it mean if I had been? What would I be able to do? What would I be doing now if I had been? How would my life be different? How would I be contributing so much more powerfully? And then when we think about the junior youth groups, which are working with middle school aged kids at a formative period in their lives, when they're forming their self-concept, their identity, their moral reasoning, and, you know, without the curriculum that the Baha'is are working with these kids with, you know, what society offers middle schoolers is materialism. And beyond materialism, it's the best we could hope for is to become, you know, an activist to fight against stuff that's bad, right? But consider a possibility where somebody defines themselves as they start moving into maturity as somebody who makes a difference in their community through service to others, someone who cares for everyone in their community and ultimately everyone in the world. So that puts a different framework on reality when we see that, like, our whole reason for being is to care for everyone else in the whole world, starting with the people, you know, in our neighborhoods, right? So that, like, if I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, it's the framing of reality that is the problem, right? Because it's like if we're framing it as us versus them, it's going to continue to be us versus them because the them is going to continue to fight them. But if the framing is like, I care about, you know, you and I care about you, and like, let's see what we can do together to make our community better. You know, it's a whole different thing.
So wonderful.
Yeah,